everyone, welcome to our video tutorial for this cat tank top that you can see Melba wearing here. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. Please like, share and subscribe, and hope to catch you soon. Thanks, bye. Okay, so to make this tank top you'll need some yarn, and this for me is probably a summer project, but you could do it as a winter project as well. I've used previously for this pattern, and also I'm going to use again today, is this 2-weight acrylic. So it would be also great in a fine cotton blend, but you could make it a winter project and use a wool blend. Like I said, I'm going to use this one. It's an acrylic that's got all this color graduation through it, and I'll show you also the one that I've made previously, and you'll see how it kind of works up. It's different colors, but it's the same yarn, acrylic yarn. You'll need a crochet hook that corresponds to your yarn. So I've got this 3.5mm that I'm going to use today. You'll need a darning needle to weave in your ends, some scissors to snip your ends. You may or may not need some stitch markers. They're definitely not vital for this project. They might just help you mark the halfway points at the sides, but it's definitely not, it's totally optional. So if you've got stitch markers, then have them on hand, but you may not need them. And then you'll need a tape measure to take a few measurements from your cat. You'll need to measure their belly circumference, or where you want the back of this tank top to fall. You'll also need to have an idea of the neck circumference, and also the length from the neck down to where you want this tank top to fall. So you'll need to have a tape measure to take those measurements. Okay, so here's the one that I've made previously for Melba. This is just this is just intended as a summer garment, so it's only a half size. You could extend the length if you wanted to and make a longer version, perhaps a wintry version in a wool blend. For me, with this open weave pattern, it's more of a summer thing, but you could make it longer and make it more wintry. So one of the main techniques that you'll need to know is how to size a garment, and I'll run through that as we move along. What I've done here is this: we start down the bottom, and you'll need the circumference of where you want it to fall. This part here, this band here, has some increases in it. They're optional, you can increase or not. And this you may extend if you're making the tank top longer, then you may extend this area here, and you may add more increases into this area here if you need to fit it. You've got options of how quickly you decrease this area here. So for me, on this one, I've made the chest area slightly narrower than the back area. So that's just to give Melba plenty of movement through the chest, and it doesn't inhibit any movement there. You'll also need to size the neck band, and I'll run through that with you. As far as stitches go, you'll need to know how to slip knot onto your hook, how to create a chain, how to single crochet decrease, how to double crochet, and how to double crochet in the front post. Other than that, you'll need to know how to weave in your ends, and but otherwise it's beginner friendly and pretty easy. The hardest thing is just to work out how to size it yourself. I think that's all I'll say about sizing for now. Just pay attention as we move through to some of the techniques, as far as and little tricks of how to size it for your cat, and let's get started. Okay, so we'll get started by slip knotting onto the hook. And then you're going to chain the length that you want for the circumference that you've taken a measurement of. So as I was just saying before, this is the measurement here that you're taking for your foundation chain. So we're starting at the bottom, working up. So take that measurement and make a chain to that length. So for Melba, this length here where I want it to fall is around 36 centimeters. So you know, you'll work out where you want it to fall, and make sure you're chaining an even number. Okay, so go ahead and make that chain, and I'll do the same, and I'll meet you once I'm at my circumference that I want, and once you've done yours. So I'll catch you soon. Okay, so you've got your foundation chain. Now, just a reminder that you should have an even number of chains, and to the circumference of where you want it to fall on your cat's belly, or in front of the back legs. So just make sure that your chain is not twisted, and we're going to join to make a loop. So just slip stitch into that first chain. Just once again make sure that it's not twisted. Move that tail out the way and slip stitch. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2, and you've got the option here of starting to work in that tail. So if you want to, you can work that in now. Now, another option is you can work into the third loop of your chain. I'm not going to do that today. So the third loop is this back loop here. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to be working into the chain as normal. And this first round is just a round of double crochets. So yarn over, and this will count as a stitch. So move into the next chain and do your double crochet. So your chain counts as the first, and then you'll move around and just place one double crochet into each chain. So go ahead and do that. And if, just a reminder, if you need to brush up on any of these techniques, please just check out any, you know, heaps of YouTube videos on how to do a double crochet. That's in US terminology. So I don't run through the stitches specifically here. So if you need to check those out, please do. But otherwise, keep on going. Work a double crochet into each of your chains, and I'll see you once you get around here. Now, actually, just to quickly say, I'm working in my tail. You don't need to. You can just weave it in at the end, whatever works for you. So I'll see you soon. Okay, so I've just placed my last double crochet in my last chain there, and then I'm going to slip stitch to join. So that's round 1 done. Okay, so we're going to, I'm just unraveling my yarn there. So we're going to move on to round 2 now. So chain 2, and we're going to work, so I'll show you just quickly on this one that's made. We've just got this bottom area here that is a little bit of a, like a little bit of a ribbing, kind of ribbing. Okay, it doesn't show up super well in this darker colour, but you'll see as I move along in this lighter colour that it will create this ribbing, and then we'll start on this more open pattern. Okay, we've just got this ribbing here at the base and also around the neck there. Okay, so we're just going to work our next round creating that ribbing. Okay, so this counts as a stitch, so find your next double crochet, and you'll work a front post. And actually, these are what I forgot to mention at the beginning, that you'll need to know how to do this front post double crochet, which is you basically, let's do that again. So you just work, rather than working into the stitch at the top here, you just work behind that double crochet. Okay, so super easy. Just oops, I need to yarn over first though. So super easy. You just need to work the double crochet into a slightly different spot than you usually do. Okay, and then your next one is just a normal double crochet above the next double crochet. Okay, and then a front post double crochet in the next. And then just a normal double crochet in the next. So that's the pattern that you'll alternate, front post and then normal. Okay, so move around in your round 2, and you can start to see that ridged pattern, that ribbing coming through already there. Okay, so work all the way around and I'll meet you back around here. Okay, so I'm just placing my last double crochet in here, which is a front post double crochet. So this will end round 2. So just slip stitch to join. And there you have the base part of your, so there you've finished this base part here. Okay, now the next round is a single crochet round, round 3. So this is the point where you might want your stitch markers. It's you know, it all depends. You might want to increase here. And again, this is optional. You don't have to increase. I like to increase a little bit just at these sides and front and back. So from here on, so if you want to mark halfway where you'll do your increases on these sides, you can do that. So just mark on one side, marking the stitch that you're going to do your increase on, and so you've got that about halfway, and then mark the other side. Now you don't have to do that, you can just eyeball halfway. And to start round 1, you'll chain 1. Now to increase here, we're going to work back into that same the same stitch where the chain comes out of for this round. Okay, so just single crochet, so back into that same stitch, and then just single crochet all the way around, increasing or not, it's entirely up to you. You don't have to increase, but if you want to make this just sort of shape outwards from the ribbing, then you'll increase here. Okay, so you'll increase at least in the sides and front and back, center of front and back. You could do other increases as well if you wanted to increase again halfway here, then halfway here. This is where it's up to you to fit and size this as you want it to be. Okay, I'm just going to make these 4 increases. So center of front and back and 1 at each side. So if you want to do more than that, that's entirely up to you. If you want to make it a bit more loose fitting, that's entirely up to you. So go ahead and finish off your single crochet round. And what I'll do, if you're comfortable just increasing on your own, all it is 2 single crochets into the 1 stitch to make an increase. So if you're comfortable doing that, just head on through. Otherwise, I'm going to just finish off a little bit more here. I need to untangle my yarn. Actually, I've got a little knot in here. So I'm going to just pause here and I'll meet you at this stitch marker and we'll increase together. Otherwise, just go ahead and do your 2 stitches where you've got the stitch markers to make your increase, and 1 at the center, 1 increase at the center back. Center, yeah, it'll be on, well, it'll be the back. But yes, so even with, you just make it, just find a stitch that's around the center here and make an increase there. So I'll untangle my yarn and I'll meet you at this first stitch marker. Okay, so I'm at my stitch marker. I'll just remove that. And I'll just place 2 single crochets where that stitch marker was to make an increase. I'll put my stitch marker back in the second one, because you may want to make an increase in the next row as well, or the next round as well. It's again entirely up to you. And then I'm just going to single crochet around until I get towards the center back. So you could have had a 3rd stitch marker marking that center back, but I just make it even with the center front, so I don't bother to mark at the back there. And then at the center back, you'll do your 2 single crochets to increase, and then you'll also do your increase at the other stitch marker. And then I'll meet you back around at the end of this round. Okay, I'm just placing my last single crochet in this round. and then I'm just going to slip stitch to that first stitch, and that's round 3 done. So now we're going to move on and start to create this open weave pattern, and basically all it is this single crochet alternating with this double crochet, chain 1, skip 1. Okay, so I'll walk you through the first few stitches. So chain 3 here. So why we're chaining 3 and we only chained 2 before, we're chaining 3 to allow for a chain 1, skip 1, okay, to get this open weave pattern. So chain 3 here. Every time you're doing this window round, you'll skip 1. Okay, so sorry, you'll chain 1 to be able to skip 1. So now skip this. So this now counts as a stitch again. So skip that first one and then double crochet into the next one, chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet into the next stitch. So this is going to create your open pattern. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So you'll be working this all the way around, and no increase in this row. So you can remove your stitch markers here, or you can leave them in and just take them out as you go. The next single crochet round you can increase again if you want to. Okay, I'm going to increase again at least one more time. I'll just see how it's looking. So I'm going to move around, but I'm going to finish this window row, and like I said, no increases in this window row, just this chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet into the next. So keep creating this row, and I'll meet you when we're around at the end. Okay, so when you get round to the other end, you should have just one single crochet left. So you'll chain 1 and then you'll just slip stitch into the top of that first stitch. Okay, so there your chain counts as a stitch. So from here you're just going to move on to a single crochet row. So it's, as I said before, it's alternating single crochet with this window row, single crochet, and now you have the option to increase again if you want to in the single crochet row. Now I didn't mention before, but specifically if you've made this quite long and the circumference is around the thinner part of the belly, then you will need to make these increases, and you'll have you'll continue with this width here a bit longer, so you'll have even more opportunity to increase as you go. Otherwise, what we're going to continue to do, and I'm going to leave you to do this, is we're going to just work around this alternating of single crochet with this window row, which was that double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and then a single crochet, that window row, single crochet, window row, and you're going to keep going and increasing or not increasing in the single crochet rows depending, how you want to fit this, and you'll go for as long as you need to until you want to start just behind the back legs with this, just behind the front legs, with starting this decrease. Okay, so that's something that you'll just have to work out. How wide do you need this part to be? So how many of this alternating you're doing, how many of the single crochet and the window rows you're doing to get that width. Okay, so you might need to measure that from where you've taken your measurement here to where the front legs start. You may need to take a measurement and just work out how thick you need this part to be. Like I said, this is only only half, so it's only a half length. So this part here fits around Melba's ribs. So I don't need to increase it too much because this is already around her ribs, around the wider part of her belly. If you've measured it to be a bit more around the thinner part of the belly, so behind the ribs, then you may need to do quite a few more increases. Okay, so I'm hoping that makes sense. And with these things, every cat is different. You've kind of got to just work out how you size and fit this for your specific cat, as well as for the dimensions that you want, so how long you've decided to make this tank top. Okay, so continue on with your alternating between the single crochet and then the window row. Single crochet with an increase or not, window row. And for however many rows you want to create the height or the width of that area that you want. Okay, so I'm going to let you move on. I'm just going to continue on with my my rows here. So how you'll do the single crochets is you'll single crochet back into that stitch there, and then you'll sorry, excuse me, no you won't. You will single crochet when you're single crocheting into the windows. You actually crochet into the window and then into the stitch above the single crochet. Sometimes that can be a little bit hard to get depending on how tight your crochet is. So that's the single crochet above the double crochet in the previous row, and then single crochet into the window. Okay, and then single crochet above and then into the window. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. So you're single crocheting into the, actually I know why that was so tight, because I was trying to single crochet into the chain, and actually there's my stitch there. So sometimes it's good that I make these little mistakes because it shows you what not to do. So actually the single crochet is just a little bit before the stitch. Okay, so alternate with that. So hopefully you can see what's happened there is I've single crocheted that first one into the window, above the stitch, into the window, above the stitch, into the window, above the stitch. So you'll continue on doing that, and then when you get to your stitch markers, you can make an increase here. Okay, and it doesn't really matter, at least I don't think it does. No, it shouldn't really matter whether you increase in the window or into the stitch. It doesn't really matter. What I would tend to do is increase into the window. So put 2 stitches into the window. And I'm pretty sure that's what I did last time as well. So yeah, continue on. Add your increases in the single crochet rows. And like I said, I'm going to meet you when I've reached the height that I want. And what I did, how many did I do last time? I think I did 1, 2, I did three sets of alternating. So 3 single crochet rows, 3 window rows. And you can go more than that, or you could even make it less than that, you know. If you've got this falling just behind the back legs, you might not even want to do that. You might even have only two of the repeats. So you work that out for you, and I'm going to leave you now to finish off that part, and I'll see you soon. Okay, I just wanted to show you from moving from the end of the single crochet round through to the beginning of the double crochet round just once again. So I've finished my last single crochet into that window, so I'm just going to slip stitch to join, and then I just want to remind you, remember to chain 3 for these window rows, because you need that extra chain to skip one and then start again that alternating pattern of the double crochet in the next stitch. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Okay, so continue on and I'll catch you soon. Okay, so I've done as much as I'm going to do there. So I'm making the same size as the one that I made previously. So just to recap, I've got my ribbing, and then I've got 6 repeats of single crochet row, skip 1, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet row. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. Okay, so yeah, because I've finished on a single crochet row, and that's also what I recommend that you do. So yeah, you can continue on if you want to, continuing with increases or not. I've made an increase in each of my single crochet rows, and I'm going to leave it at that now. So all of this will also depend on the size of the hook that you're using, the exact yarn that you're using. So you're going to have to work with your measurements and, you know, just get that right for your cat. But we're going to move on. So we do each of these sides. So this is for me, this is the front side, because as I mentioned, it's slightly narrower here for the chest. And this is my back side. So you just choose which side you're going to do, and it actually doesn't matter at this point. But what we're going to do is just turn, I can remove those stitch markers now. So just turn your work so this seam is at the side. So that's where it's going to end up for your work. So you won't be able to see it on this one, but on this one there's my no, is it that side? No, it's this side. So my seam is down here, okay, and it ends up sitting at the side. So we're going to work backwards and forwards along one side here. So we're up to, so you've finished on a single crochet row. No matter how many repeats you've got, you finish on a single crochet row. Okay, so chain 3, because the next row will be a window row. And you're just going to do a window row. You can leave the other side stitch marker in actually, just so you know where to work to on the other side. But we're just going to do a single double crochet window row here. So you'll just chain 3, turn your work, skip 1, and just do exactly as you've done before, but you just won't be working in the round now, you'll be working in rows. So go ahead and do that row to halfway, which is where your stitch marker is, or not, or just halfway, and I'll meet you once we get to this other side, and I'll show you how we're going to start to decrease this pattern. And I'm going to give you 2 ways that you can decrease, and one will give you a thinner area for the chest if you want it, and I'll show you I'll at least show you what I've done to get this thinner one on this side and a slightly thicker one on the other side. There's 2 ways that you can decrease it. So I'm going to work first this front side, and I'll show you how I decreased that one, and then you can decide if you want to decrease it that way or if you want it to be a little bit wider. But like I said, it'll all depend on the width of the chest, and I do recommend that you make it a bit narrower at the chest so there's no inhibition of movement at the chest. So go ahead and finish that row, or that to halfway of your window row. So chain 1, skip 1, and do your window row. And I'll meet you when I'm back over here. Okay, so I've reached my stitch marker. And so just place your last double crochet near the stitch marker. It doesn't have to be in the exact stitch of the stitch marker. And now I'll remove that. I won't need that anymore. Okay, so now we're going to start decreasing. So chain 1. Now there's 2 ways you can decrease. Now for the front, I'm going to decrease in the way that I'll show you first. So what I do for the front, I've just got a piece that's stuck there. There we go. So there's 2 ways to decrease. Let me show you both of them. So for the front, and the way that I'm actually going to decrease for this front bit, we're going to decrease in the first 2 windows. Okay, so a single crochet decrease, insert your hook into the window, pull up a loop, then insert your hook into the second window, pull up a loop, and then pull your yarn through all 3. Okay, and then you'll continue as before the rest of the row, single crochet in the stitch and then in the window. Okay, so that's one way to decrease, and that's going to decrease fastest. Okay, Now, if you want to decrease a bit slower than that, what you'll do is you'll decrease with the first window and then the stitch above the double crochet. Okay, so same thing, insert your hook into the window, pull up a loop, and then insert into the stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through all three. So you've decreased in the window and the next stitch, not in the first two windows. So this will decrease more slowly. So decide which one you want to do for this first panel. So basically what we'll do is we'll work this first panel, and then we're going to work our other panel. We're just going to tie on here, and we're going to work the other panel. So I'm working on the front first, so you just decide what you're working on first. I'm working on the front first, so I want it to decrease a little bit more quickly, so I'm going to decrease, single crochet decrease in those first two windows. And then what I'm going to do when I get to the end here, I'm going to decrease in the last two windows. If you're doing the second way of decreasing, you would decrease in the last stitch and the last window. So not the last two windows, just the last stitch and the last window. So basically you're just doing the mirror of what you do at the beginning. But I'll meet you down here and I'll show you how I do that. Otherwise, if you're happy just to continue on, so you're only decreasing in the single crochet rows as you were only increasing in the single crochet rows down here. And then you go ahead and you do the window rows as normal, but we'll get to that in a moment. I'll meet you down here once I've finished this single crochet row. Okay, so I'm at the end of that row, and so I'm decreasing in the last two windows. So if that's what you're doing too, then you'll just do the same thing as you did at the beginning, decrease in those last two windows. If you're decreasing in the last stitch and the last window, then you'll just place your single crochet in that window, and then decrease in the stitch and the last window. Okay, so whatever you did at the beginning you will do at the end. So I just need to undo that and decrease in my last two windows. Okay, so that's our first decrease. So now we're moving on to the next window row, which is a non-decrease row. So you'll just do the same thing as every other window row. So I've chained my 3, skip 1, and then place your double crochet in the next stitch. So go ahead and complete your next window row, and you can probably tell from here how that's going to go. Right, so we're just decreasing on the single crochets, normal window row, decrease on the single crochet. So you can just go ahead and create the panel, so this front panel or back panel, whichever one you're working on. So you can just go ahead and keep decreasing it until you get to where you need to be for where we'll start the neck. Okay, so and we do the neck at the end after we've done this second panel. So continue on if you feel comfortable. I'll come back to you just one more time and show you those decreases just quickly one more time. But otherwise, continue on. Keep decreasing until you reach the length that you want. Now there is what I've done with this one is I've decreased to it's about here. And then I've just started working without decreasing in the single crochet rows, even though it kind of looks like it. So what I'm going to do is I'll do the same thing here. So I'm going to continue working my decreases to about the same point, and then I'll come back to you and I'll show you what I've done for this part here, which is basically I've just continued working, kind of straight, but it still ends up being a bit of a decrease. Okay, so I won't get too far ahead of us, so we'll just continue with this decrease to wherever you want it to go, and I'll meet you back in a moment and we'll run through one more decrease together. So continue on and I will catch you soon. Okay, so I'm just at the end of this row. So it can be a little bit tricky to see that last stitch, but just make sure you get as close to the edge as you can for your, oops, I need to yarn over, as close to the edge as you can with that last double crochet. Okay, so right at the edge there. Now, moving on to the next decrease row. So depending on where you're decreasing, you'll decrease either with the first window and the first stitch or the first two windows. So I'm decreasing with those first two windows, and then I'm just going to continue on. So please keep going just as you are doing these alternating decrease rows and window rows. And you know, it's entirely up to you how you want this to go, how much you want to decrease, when you want to decrease, when you want to stop decreasing. I'm going to stop decreasing in a similar space, like as I was saying before, to where I started stop decreasing before. So it'll be around this point here. So I don't know how many rows that is exactly. Let's say 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's say I'm going to go for about 8 more rows or 4 more repeats of this alternating pattern. And I'll come back to you when I've decided that I'm going to stop decreasing. So just keep in mind that measurement between the back of your cat's legs and the neck. And and work within that measurement. So I'll see you when I decide to stop decreasing, somewhere around here. Okay, so I've decreased to where I want to decrease, and I've actually decreased slightly one more repeat than I did last time. So I'm actually going to make this one just slightly thinner here. So from here, to get to the rest of the length that I need to make it to Melba's neck, is I'm just no longer going to decrease on my single crochet rows. I'm just going to work into each window in each stitch. And then I'm just going to do the normal thing I've been doing with the window rows. Okay, so you just decide when you've decreased as much as you want to decrease for the width, both the width across the chest and you know, if you're doing the back, the width across the back, and then you stop, and then you just continue to do back and forward repeats until you reach the length that you need to get to the neck. So continue on until you reach that length that you need, just doing those repeats, and I'll meet you when I'm at the length that I want. Okay, so I've finished my decreasing now, and what you'll notice is it's actually got quite thin for me right up the top here, and I've done that purposely for this one because this one is it's still slightly wide actually on Melba's chest. It's fine, it doesn't restrict her movement at all, but it just bunches a little like this. So what I've done purposely is I've gone a little bit narrower on the front on this one. So now you've finished that first panel on the front. What you can do is you can tie off here. What I tend to do is, because I'm using this graduated yarn, is I tend to find the other end of my yarn, so out of the center of the ball, and I tie on for the second panel with the other end. So what I just do is I just pull that loop out and leave it, and then I'm going to continue on, and I apologize, I'm losing a little bit of light here, starting to use a little bit of light. Okay, I've just added my my light source, so hopefully that will mitigate a little bit this loss of light. So now we've got to do on my one it's the back panel. So I'm going to do this back panel by tying on. So just choose one of your sides and tie onto the stitch next to next to where you finished this other side. So I'm just the way I tie on is I just pull up a loop, and then I'm going to, because I'm moving on to a window row, I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm just going to pull that nice and tight, and then I'll weave in that end later to secure it. So we're just going to do the same again. Now what I'm going to, actually I might work in my tail here. So what we're going to do is just as we've done before, so I'm going to do the second way of decreasing now. So I'll just finish this window row. Actually I might weave it in, that'll just make it a bit more secure. So what I'm going to do is do this first window row. Oops. So you go ahead and do the same. And I'll meet you at the other side. So obviously we're just working backwards and forwards again. So I'll meet you when you get back to this side, and we'll start our decreases together. Okay, so I've reached my other side, and I'm going to start my decreases, so chain 1. Now what I didn't mention actually on this other side is just be careful not to pull, when you start your decrease, just be careful not to pull it too tight, otherwise it'll start to curl. And because I tend to be a tighter crocheter, it does tend to curl a little, although it kind of corrects itself as you do the next row, and as you add the neck, it'll kind of keep it in line a little bit. But just be careful when you do these decreases, you don't pull them too tight. So what I'm going to do on this side, it's the back side, so I don't want to decrease quite as quickly. So I'm going to just decrease with the first window and then the first stitch. Okay, and then I'll just work into the next window as normal. So the decrease won't be quite as dramatic on the back side, but you still want to decrease it enough so it sits over the shoulder blades nice and neatly, but just not, I mean you could do the same as you've done for the front panel if you want it to be completely symmetrical, and you don't have a front and a back. This is all this decreasing and working out how you want it to look is entirely up to you. There's so much flexibility in how you make this work. So I just want to give you as many options as I can. Like I said, because each cat is different, the look that you're going to want is perhaps a bit different. The yarn that you're using is a bit different. So yeah. So it just gives you lots of options, and please don't be frightened to just play around and see what works for you as far as fit goes and look goes. So I'm going to continue on with my single crochet row, and I will meet you at this other side. We'll decrease again together, and then I'll just let you continue on and continue as you did before, to where you want to stop decreasing, and then do just this very slight decrease. It still decreases by 1 window each row, but it's much less quick. So yeah, so stop where you stopped before, or you could stop at a different place and just go straight and decrease slowly. What I might do is I might stop my decrease 1 repeat earlier, so it's just a little bit wider on this back side. But you work that out for yourself, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I'm just decreasing here in this row, so I'll decrease with my last stitch and my last window. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue on as before. So I'll catch you after I have decreased to where I want to decrease, and I'll just show you where I'm at then, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so I'm at the top of my back panel. Now what I've done is I actually, when I stopped decreasing, which was, I don't know, it's about here, maybe it's this one, what I started to do is I started to do a quicker decrease, actually, because it wasn't decreasing as quick as I wanted it to. So now I've reached, you know, a kind of, they don't have to be the same size, these two edges. It doesn't matter if they're different sizes. All that matters is that here it sits in, you know, in a way that's comfortable across the shoulder blades. So this is my back panel that you can see here, and this is my front panel, which is thinner. So I've just done a combination of decrease techniques that work for me and the way that I want it to fit Melba, and it fits my yarn and it works with my hook size. So yeah, you'll have to do a similar sort of idea. So again, just to recap, what I did is I started to slowly decrease here, and then I decreased more rapidly by decreasing in the 2 windows for this last half of this back panel. And we've already gone through what I did for the front panel. Okay, so now you are going to create the neck piece, and why I left this untied off on the beginning is because I wanted the choice of which side I would use for my neck piece, and I think I'm going to use the purple. So I'm going to tie off here, so I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, and I'm just going to snip off that end because I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to use this end for my neck piece, neck band. Okay, so to make the neck band, you're going to have to rely on your own calculations to work out how many you need to chain for your neck band. Now, it will depend on a lot of different factors. It will depend on your yarn weight, the hook you're using. It will depend on the size of your cat. It will depend on how you've decreased, so how much width you have on these edges. So it'll depend on lots of things. You're just going to have to work that out for yourself. So you need to know your cat's neck circumference. So for Melba, it's around 23-24 centimeters. But you also need to allow a little bit, especially if your material is not stretchy, you'll have to allow a little bit that it can fit over the head. So this material is a little bit stretchy. And also this stitch, this rib stitch, is a little bit stretchy. So I can get that over her head relatively easily. But if you have a fabric that, a yarn that doesn't have a lot of stretch in it, you'll need to account for that. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so I'm going to start with 15. I think that's what I chained on the last one. But the last one's a bit different because it wasn't as thin here. It wasn't as narrow here. So actually I might add, because I know that, I might add just an extra. Let's go to 20. 1, 2, 3. 4 and 5. So that's a total of 20 that I've chained there. So you will chain your number. Now what I recommend that you do is you just slip stitch across to the other corner into that first single crochet on the other side. And what I recommend that you do is just take a moment to do a couple of calculations. So I'll lay that flat. Okay. And take my tape measure. So I know Melba's neck circumference is 23 to 20, let's say 23 and a half. I need to allow an extra centimetre or 2 to get it over her head. For Melba, her head's not super wide, so I can allow about an extra centimetre. So I'm aiming for this measurement across to be, so across this neck piece, I'm aiming for that to be half of 25. So I need it to be about 12 and a half. So it's actually about 13. So actually it's pretty much 12 and a half exactly. So so I'm aiming for the same sort of measurement. So what I've got across here, if I start from this widest piece and I go to the edge of the, I've got about 10 centimeters there, and now I need to add, so this on the other, same on the other side, so I've got about 14, yeah, so I've got actually too many chains. So 14 and 14 is 28. It's going to be a bit too, it's probably going to be a bit too loose around the neck, so I might just subtract 1, 2, let's take 3, 17. And I'll just do the same calculation again, and like I said, I just have to leave you to kind of work this out for yourself because yours will be wholly unique. And I'll just make sure that I'm in the ballpark there. So you just want to make sure it's not too small, really, and certainly not too big. So I've got, so I said I've got, yeah, let's say that's 9, and I'm going to add 3.5. So 9, 3.5, 12.5 times 2, 25. Perfect. So I've chained 17. And then I know I'm going to chain 17 on this other side, so that's going to give me the neck circumference that I need. Okay, so now we're just going to single crochet all the way across. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that slip stitch out, which was just temporary, to make sure that I had the right amount. And I'm actually going to single crochet into that first stitch. So single crochet into that first stitch. And then single crochet all the way across that top edge on this first side, for me it's the back side. So single crochet all the way across, and then you will of course chain the same number as you chained just now. So I chained 17, so I'm going to chain the same. So I'll just put my last single crochet in there, and now I'm going to chain my 17, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17, and then I'm going to single crochet into this first stitch on the other side. Actually, it's I know what I haven't done on this other side. I'm going to have to go back. What I haven't, I've actually finished on a window row, and I didn't finish on a single crochet row. So I'm going to have to go back. Forgive me for that, but it won't make any difference on the timing. But what you'll do now is you'll single crochet into the first stitch and then into each stitch until you get back to here, okay? And I'll meet you here after I've made the correction that I need to make by adding my single crochet across the top there, which I forgot to do. So I'll see you soon. Okay, so I'm back round. I've done my correction, and I've done my chain on the other side. Now chain 2 here, and you're going to work a round of double crochet. So we're just going to repeat what we did down at the bottom here. So a round of double crochet, so working into the chain, and into the stitches, just do 1 round of double crochet all the way around the neck band, and I'll see you once we get round to here. Okay, so I'm round. I've done my last double crochet for that first round of the neck band, so we'll just slip stitch to join, and then chain 2, and then we're just going to do the same as what we did on, like I said, on the ribbed part at the base. Is we're just going to do, so the next stitch is, yarn over first, is a front post double crochet, and then the next one is just a normal double crochet, and then a front post, and you'll work your way all the way around until you have finished off that neckband. Okay, so keep on going, continue alternating as you did for this bottom part, and I'll be back soon. Okay, so I'm round at my last double crochet here, and then I'm just going to slip stitch to join. Now you might not have the exact, so it finishes on a front post like mine. I don't tend to worry about that too much, just because, you know, working out, you know, how many stitches I've got. I mean, you could certainly do it if you feel comfortable doing it. My major concern is that it's the right size for the neckband. So I tend to not worry too much if I don't finish exactly on you know, so it's not completely alternating. I don't mind that too much. If that bothers you a lot, then you'll have to calculate that you've got an even number to finish off like that. So I'm, you know, like I said, that doesn't worry me too much. So I'm done. Now all it is just yarning over, pulling through and snipping your end, and then just weaving in your ends, and you're done. So I'm going to weave in all my ends off camera. So I've got this one down here that was my tie-on end. I've already worked in my end at the bottom, so that's okay. I've got this this end to work in, and I've got my last end to work in. So I'm going to assume that you know how to do that. Perhaps I'll just quickly show you with this purple one. So you just take your darning needle, thread your darning needle, and then you'll just want to work. So I work down into this back part here, and just working through, you know, just work through wherever you can in a way that sort of secures it well. So actually, let me just come back down there first, and then I'll find this back part here. Yeah, that's better. So I work down into the stitches and across, and I do that a couple of times, and then I double back. But just make sure when you're doubling back, you're not doubling back exactly through where you've just come, otherwise that will unravel. And then just come back. So I've got 2 loops there, so I can go back through that second loop. And then to make it nice and secure, I try to go down one of those double crochets down through the center, and then just make sure you haven't pulled anything too tight, and then I just snip off the excess, and it's done. And I'll go ahead, oh, maybe that was all off camera. I hope not. Yeah. Hopefully you know how to weave in an end, because I think that might have just been all off camera. So yeah, you're done. I'll just tuck those away, pretend that I've done those other ends, and you're done. You've got your little tank top. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please send your photos along to either catventurous.community@gmail.com, or you can tag us on social media, catventurous.crochet. So I'd love to see your photos, see how yours turned out, and see your cat wearing it. So please send those along if you've got the time. And thanks for being here. Thanks very much, and catch you soon. You say hi, Melba. Hi from Melba. Hi, sweet pea. What's up there? What's up there? What's up there?